The rain came down in sheets that November morning, turning the Seattle streets into rivers of gray. But Sarah Chen wasn't. Thinking about the weather as she sat in her car outside the grocery store, gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles had gone white. The letter from the bank lay crumpled on the passenger seat. Foreclosure notice, 60 days. The words blurred through her tears, mixing with the rain streaming down her windshield until the whole world looked like it was melting away. She'd lost her job 3 months ago when the tech company downsized. Her mother's medical bills had drained what little savings she had. And now this. How do you tell your 10-year-old daughter that you're about to lose the only home she's ever known? How do you explain that? Sometimes good people who work hard and play by the rules still end up with nothing. Sarah forced herself to breathe, to move. She had exactly $43 in her checking account and a list of groceries that had to last 2 weeks. Every item carefully calculated, every penny accounted for. She grabbed her reusable bags and stepped into the rain. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed overhead as she moved through the aisles like a ghost, selecting the cheapest options. Store-brand pasta, dented cans from the discount bin, day-old bread. She'd gotten good at this math, this survival arithmetic that had become her daily existence. When she reached the checkout, her hands trembled slightly as she placed each item on the belt, hoping she'd calculated correctly, praying the card wouldn't decline in front of everyone. Rough day? Sarah looked up. The cashier was a woman probably in her 70s, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that seemed to see straight through all the walls Sarah had built around herself. Her name tag read, Margaret. Just the rain, Sarah said, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack her face in half. Margaret nodded slowly, scanning items with practiced efficiency. But then she did something strange. As she scanned the pasta, her hand slipped, and several boxes tumbled to the floor behind the register. Oh my, she said, bending down with a soft grunt. Could you help me, dear? These old bones aren't what they used to be. Sarah hurried around to help, kneeling beside Margaret to gather the boxes. That's when she saw it. Margaret was pressing something into her hand. Under the cover of the fallen pasta boxes, cash. Several bills, folded small. I can't, Sarah whispered, trying to push it back. You can, Margaret said firmly, her voice low. And you will. Because someday, when you're back on your feet, you'll do the same for someone else. That's how it works. That's how we survive. But I don't... I've been where you are, Margaret interrupted, still pretending to organize boxes. 20 years ago. Different circumstances, same fear in the eyes. Someone helped me when I had nothing. I'm just passing it forward. She squeezed Sarah's hand once, hard. Take it, feed your daughter. Keep fighting. Sarah's vision blurred again, but this time with a different kind of tears. She slipped the money into her pocket as they stood up. Her total came to $42.73. With Margaret's gift, she could actually buy fresh fruit for Emma. Maybe even the art supplies her daughter had been asking for. Thank you, Sarah managed, her voice breaking on the words. Margaret just smiled and handed her the receipt. See you next week, dear. Sarah drove home in a daze, the money in her pocket feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds and nothing at all. When she pulled into her driveway, Emma burst out the front door. Rain be damned. Her face lit up with excitement. Mom! Mom! Guess what happened? Sarah gathered her daughter into her arms, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. What, sweetheart? Mrs. Rodriguez from next door came by. She said she needs someone to help her with her computer and online stuff 3 times a week. She wants to pay you. She said she heard you were really good with technology, and she's been struggling forever to figure out her email and shopping and stuff. Sarah's heart stuttered. Mrs. Rodriguez was their elderly neighbor, a widow who lived alone. They'd chatted over the fence sometimes, and Sarah had occasionally helped her with small things. But this, did she say how much? Sarah asked carefully. $20 an hour. And she said maybe her friends would need help too if you did a good job. Mom, is that good? You look like you're going to cry again. Sarah was crying openly now, holding her daughter tight while the rain poured down around them. $20 an hour, 3 times a week. It wasn't everything, but it was something. It was a start. It was hope, appearing exactly when she'd run out of it. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Sarah sat at her laptop and did something she hadn't done in months. She started building a website, basic computer tutoring for seniors, reasonable rates, patient instruction. She thought about Margaret's words. Someday, when you're back on your feet, you'll do the same for someone else. The weeks that followed were hard. Sarah worked every odd job she could find, spent hours with Mrs. Rodriguez and her growing circle of friends, all older folks struggling with technology in an increasingly digital world. She sold everything she didn't absolutely need. She fought with the bank for extensions, for options, for mercy. Emma never got to go to the movies or buy new clothes. But she never went hungry either. And slowly, impossibly, they started to climb out of the hole. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the grocery store again, Margaret's line stretching longer than the others as always. People seemed to gravitate toward her warmth, her genuine interest in their lives. When Sarah reached the register, she had a full cart this time. Real groceries, fresh vegetables, the expensive pasta Emma loved. "Someone's doing better," Margaret said with a knowing smile. "Someone gave me a chance when I needed it most," Sarah replied. She glanced around, then leaned closer. "I started a nonprofit, teaching computer skills to seniors, but free for those who can't afford it. We've helped 43 people in the last 3 months find their way around technology, connect with family, apply for benefits they didn't know they qualified for. One woman found her son she'd been separated from for 15 years. Margaret's eyes shimmered. "That's wonderful, dear." "It's because of you," Sarah said. "What you gave me wasn't just money. It was faith. It was the reminder that people still care. That kindness still exists in the world." She handed Margaret an envelope. "This is the amount you gave me and then some. Not because I'm paying you back, but because I want you to have it for the next person. And the person after that." Margaret took the envelope with shaking hands. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did. Because that's how it works. That's how we survive. You taught me that." That night, Sarah tucked Emma into bed, watching her daughter's peaceful face in the dim glow of her nightlight. They were still in their house. The foreclosure had been stopped. Her business was growing. But more than any of that, Sarah had learned something fundamental about the human spirit. We're all just walking each other home, she thought. Sometimes we stumble. Sometimes we fall. But there are always hands reaching out in the darkness if we're brave enough to grasp them. And when we're strong again, we reach back, creating chains of kindness that spread out in ways we'll never fully understand. The rain started again outside, but Sarah wasn't afraid of storms anymore. She'd learned that even in the darkest downpour, there are people like Margaret, like Mrs. Rodriguez, like all the students who'd thanked her with tears in their eyes for helping them. Video chat with grandchildren they'd been unable to see. Her, that woman in the grocery store, that neighbor over the fence, that stranger who becomes less strange with every act of compassion. Her story is all our stories, really. The story of human beings doing what we do best, not building walls or drawing lines, but reaching across divides with open hands and open hearts. Sarah closed her eyes and whispered a prayer of gratitude into the darkness. For Margaret, for second chances, for the beautiful, terrible, magnificent truth that none of us makes it alone, and all of us can be someone's miracle if we're willing to try.